The words hung in the silence like a ghost between us. "We're going in a new direction," Donald Higgins from Human Resources said, his eyes fixed somewhere above my head. He cleared his throat. "The leadership team believes fresh perspectives will benefit the division." I stared at him, feeling the cold weight of 18 years of loyalty suddenly worth nothing. My voice remained steady when I finally spoke. "And who exactly is taking over my position?" "Clara Jenkins. She started with us last month in market research." The floor seemed to tilt beneath me. "The 20-something who has been here 4 weeks. 28, Donald corrected, as if that made it better. "She has an impressive educational background and brings innovative digital thinking that aligns perfectly with our new strategic vision." I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that made him flinch. "Innovative thinking? I built this division from nothing. Our client retention rate is 98%. What exactly needs innovation here?" "This isn't a performance issue, Richard." He slid a folder across the desk. "We're transitioning you to senior advisor. You'll keep your benefits package. We value your institutional knowledge." Institutional knowledge. The words tasted like vinegar. "That's what you call 18 years of relationships I've built. The crises I handled when our biggest client nearly walked. The nights and weekends I missed with my daughter to keep this place running." Donald's expression remained blank, professional, practiced. "Your new workspace has been prepared. You can move your things today." The next morning, I watched Clara settle into my chair. Her manicured fingers trailed along the desk edge as she arranged her belongings. A potted succulent, a framed certificate from her recent business administration program, a motivational calendar. My new workspace sat in the corner, half the size of my old office, with a view of the building's ventilation system instead of the river. The plate on my door reading Division Director had already been changed to Senior Advisor before I had even arrived. The team meeting started at 9 o'clock. My team, my people. They filed into the conference room, avoiding my eyes, shoulders hunched with the awkwardness of collective betrayal. Clara stood at the head of the table, my spot. Her youth was painfully obvious in her nervous posture. "Good morning, everyone." Her voice was too bright, too eager. "I'm so excited to be leading this amazing team. I've been reviewing our client portfolio and have some thoughts on restructuring our approach." I watched silently as she stumbled through client names. "And our work with Sinclair needs a refresh." "Sinclair," I corrected quietly. "They are very particular about the pronunciation." 20 pairs of eyes swung toward me. Clara's smile tightened. "Right. Thanks for that, Ronald." "Richard, of course! Sorry about that," she laughed nervously. As I was saying, I glanced down as my phone vibrated with an incoming message. The sender name made my heart skip. Julian Sinclair, heir to the Sinclair business empire and main contact for our largest client. First meeting confirmed. Tuesday, 8 o'clock in the morning, usual place, curious about recent changes. I slipped my phone back into my pocket, allowing myself the smallest smile, as Clara fumbled through explaining project timelines she clearly did not understand. My fingers tapped lightly against my thigh, counting down. 3, 2, 1. "Excuse me," Oliver Foster from Finance interrupted, "but doesn't this timeline conflict with the Sinclair quarterly review?" Clara blinked. "Aye, well, we can adjust. The Sinclair review requires 6 weeks of preparation." Grace Miller from Analytics added, "We always block that time. It has been this way for 7 years." The room grew uncomfortably quiet as Clara shuffled through her notes, finding nothing. "This was only the beginning. Before we continue, I want to thank you for taking the time to read this story. If you are enjoying it so far, please take a moment to hit that like button and subscribe to catch more stories like this one. Your support means everything to me, and your comments help me know what resonates with you. Now, let's get back to how this corporate nightmare unfolded. My name is Richard Vance. For 18 years, I had poured everything into building the regional market division of a top consumer insights firm. I had started as a research assistant and climbed to division director through pure determination and strategic brilliance. I knew every client by name. I remembered their children's birthdays. I solved problems before they became disasters. I was 46 years old with the first silver strands appearing in my dark hair, earned through years of stress and sacrifice. My daughter Sarah had grown up watching me work late nights, miss school plays, and postpone vacations. Just until this project wraps up, I would always say. The projects never stopped. The signs of my impending removal had been subtle at first. Chief Executive Officer Bruce Henderson started bringing Clara to executive lunches without explanation. My meeting invitations disappeared from my calendar. Technical glitch, information technology claimed. Projects I had nurtured were suddenly reassigned for fresh perspective. I should have seen it coming. Bruce Henderson had been pushing the company toward a younger image. Digital natives understand today's market, he would say during leadership meetings, his eyes sliding past me to the younger team members. Never mind that our digital analytics platform was my initiative. After that first humiliating meeting, Clara Jenkins summoned me to her office, my former office, where she had already replaced my awards with her framed diplomas. "I need your help understanding the Sinclair account," she said, panic edging her voice. "They have requested a strategic presentation for next week." I nodded, expression neutral. The Sinclair's value tradition, they will expect our standard quarterly review format. "But I wanted to show them my new approach," she said, pulling up a flashy slide deck filled with animated transitions and industry buzzwords. I watched her scroll through it, noting 6 critical errors that would offend our conservative clients. "This is certainly innovative," I said carefully. "You don't like it," she frowned. "It is not about my preferences, it's about what works with this particular client." Her eyes narrowed. "Bruce hired me to modernize things, Richard. The company needs fresh energy." The subtext was clear. "You are obsolete." That night at home, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, a glass of wine untouched beside me. Sarah found me there at midnight, still staring at my email. "Dad, are you okay?" I looked up at my 20-year-old daughter, her face concerned. "They replaced me," I said, the words still strange in my mouth, "with someone younger, someone with less experience than you have babysitting." Sarah slid into the chair beside me. "That's insane. You built that place." "Apparently that is the problem. I am too established." "You mean too expensive and too smart," Sarah said fiercely. "Too intimidating for some insecure chief executive officer." I smiled sadly. "Maybe." Sarah squeezed my hand. "So, what's your plan?" "Plan? Dad, you always have a plan. You're the leader of contingencies, remember?" She pointed to the notebook beside my computer. "What is Plan B?" I looked down at the notebook where I had started jotting ideas. "I'm working on it." "Good," she said firmly, "because you taught me never to let anyone take what is yours without a fight." The next morning, I went back to work early before most of the team arrived. I sat at my small corner desk, meticulously organizing files when Clara walked in, already looking stressed. "Morning," she said briskly, barely glancing my way. I watched her rush into her office, close the door, and make a frantic phone call. Through the glass, I could see her gesturing, her face tense. At precisely 8:15, my phone lit up with a message from Oliver Foster in finance. Emergency meeting called. Sinclair threatening to pull account after receiving Clara's new proposal. I tucked my phone away and waited. 3 minutes later, Bruce Henderson himself appeared, walking briskly toward Clara's office. "Where is the Sinclair file?" he demanded loudly enough for me to hear. I continued quietly sorting papers, pretending not to notice the crisis unfolding. By 8:30, Bruce emerged from Clara's office and headed straight for my desk. "Richard," he said, his businessman smile firmly in place, "we need your expertise on a sensitive matter." I looked up, expression mild. "How can I help?" "The Sinclair situation. Has there been a misunderstanding with our oldest client?" I asked innocently. Bruce's smile tightened. "Clara tried introducing some updates to their service package. There has been pushback. That is unfortunate." I maintained eye contact, making him squirm slightly. "We need you in the emergency meeting. You know Julian better than anyone." I nodded, gathering my notebook. "Of course, happy to help." The conference room was tense when I entered. Clara sat at the head of the table, face pale, with Bruce sitting at her side. The speakerphone in the center connected us to Julian Sinclair in Milan. "We have Richard joining us now," Bruce announced to the phone. "Richard?" Julian's voice immediately warmed. "Buongiorno." Finally, someone who understands our business. "Buongiorno, Julian," I replied, slipping into the Italian pleasantries I knew he valued. "Come sta la famiglia, how is Rebecca's university experience going?" Briante, she loves Oxford. She was just asking about your Sarah. I could feel Clara staring at me as I navigated the conversation with ease, gently steering Julian back to his concerns, explaining the miscommunication about his account, and assuring him that his preferred approach would remain unchanged. By the call's end, Julian was laughing. This is why we trust you, Richard. You understand the value of relationship, of history. After we disconnected from Milan, Bruce cleared his throat. Excellent work, Richard. This is exactly why we value you as an advisor. I smiled pleasantly, happy to help. If there is nothing else, I should get back to my transitional duties. As I walked out, I felt Clara's eyes burning into my back. The first move in a long game had been made. What she did not know, what none of them knew, was that I had been planning for this possibility for years. Because in this industry, the biggest mistake anyone can make is believing job titles matter more than relationships. Over the next week, a pattern emerged. Clara would announce a sweeping change to our processes. Clients would resist. I would be called in to advise. Client relationships would stabilize. Each time I was careful to appear helpful but neutral. Just doing my job, I would say when Bruce thanked me for salvaging another situation. In reality, I was watching, learning, cataloging every misstep while maintaining detailed notes on all client interactions. The division operated on relationships I had cultivated for nearly 2 decades. Connections that existed nowhere in the company's formal documentation because they lived in trust, shared experiences, and personal history. 2 weeks after my demotion, Clara called me into her office. She had removed my awards shelf and replaced it with a meditation corner, complete with a small fountain. The gentle bubbling water could not mask her anxiety. I need the background on the Beverly West account, she said without preamble. They are refusing to work with anyone but you. I nodded. Beverly values consistency. Her company was our first major client. I know that, Clara snapped. I read the file. What I need is whatever you know that is not in the file. I considered her for a moment. Beverly's son Dylan has autism. She schedules all meetings around his therapy appointments on Tuesdays and Thursdays. She never takes calls between 2 and 4 in the afternoon. She prefers data presented visually, needs time to process information before decisions, and values honesty above all else. Clara scribbled notes frantically. Why isn't any of this documented? It is personal information shared over 15 years of building trust. Not everything belongs in a database. Her eyes narrowed. You have been intentionally keeping information to yourself to make you indispensable. The accusation hung between us. I maintained eye contact, voice even. I have been building relationships the way this business requires. The information has always been available to anyone who asked. Well, I am asking now, she said, sliding a legal pad across the desk. Write down everything about every client, everything you know that others don't. I took the pad. Of course, happy to help with the transition. That evening, I called Beverly West from my personal phone. They have got that child running your division? Beverly's incredulous voice filled my kitchen. Bruce has finally lost his mind. She is trying her best, I said diplomatically. Her best included sending me a proposal that ignored our entire sustainability initiative, Beverly replied. Then she suggested meeting during Dylan's therapy time. When I declined, she asked if I could just skip it this once. I winced. I am sorry about that. Don't apologize on her behalf. What's really going on, Richard? Why would they sideline you? Fresh perspectives, apparently. Beverly snorted. Cheaper perspectives, you mean? Our contract renewal is coming up next quarter. I hope they don't expect the same terms without you at the helm. I made a non-committal sound. I am still with the company as an advisor. For now, Beverly said knowingly. Let me guess, they will phase out your position once they think they have extracted all your knowledge. The conversation shifted to her son's progress. But Beverly's insight lingered. She was not wrong. My senior advisor role was clearly temporary, a convenient way to extract my knowledge before discarding me completely. The next morning, I handed Clara my client notes, a carefully curated collection that included everything that was generally known within the team, but omitted the deeper personal connections and insights that made the relationships truly valuable. This is it? Clara flipped through the pages, frowning. The essentials, I confirmed. The rest comes with time and relationship building. She muttered something under her breath that sounded like convenient before dismissing me. That afternoon, our team gathered for the monthly progress meeting. I sat in the back corner, observing as Clara presented her vision for restructuring our client approach. "We need to standardize our processes," she announced, displaying a rigid timeline of client interactions. "Too much of our current workflow depends on individual relationships rather than scalable systems." Oliver Foster raised his hand. "Won't that undermine the personalized service our clients expect?" "Personalization can be systematized," Claire insisted. "We will create detailed client profiles and protocol libraries." I watched my team exchange glances. They knew what Clara did not, that our clients valued the human connection above all else. They stayed with us because we remembered their children's names, their preferences, their histories. No database could replicate that. After the meeting, Grace Miller lingered by my desk. "This is going to be a disaster," she whispered. "The Kensington Group specifically told me last week they chose us over competitors because we do not treat them like a transaction." I nodded sympathetically. "Change can be challenging." "That's all you have to say?" Grace looked shocked. "You built this approach. You're just going to watch her dismantle it?" I met her eyes calmly. "I am in an advisory capacity now. Clara has the authority to implement her vision." Grace studied me. "You are planning something." I smiled slightly. "I am adapting to my new role, just like everyone else." "Right," Grace said, clearly unconvinced. "Well, when this ship starts sinking, I hope you have saved some lifeboats for the rest of us." As she walked away, my phone buzzed with a message from Julian Sinclair. "Meeting request denied. New process not compatible with our expectations." "What is happening over there?" I pocketed my phone without responding. The cracks were beginning to show. By the 1-month mark of Clara's leadership, client complaints had doubled. 3 smaller accounts had already announced they were exploring other options. Team morale plummeted as Clara implemented rigid reporting structures that doubled everyone's administrative workload. Bruce Henderson started appearing in our department more frequently, his forced smile growing thinner with each visit. I maintained my quiet corner position, diligently completing the increasingly meaningless tasks assigned to me while watching the division I had built begin to crumble. "You need to do something." Oliver Foster cornered me in the break room. "Fairmont Hotels is threatening to walk. That is a $3 million account." "I am sure Clara has a plan," I replied, stirring my tea. Oliver lowered his voice. "The team is talking. Some are updating their resumes. Grace has an interview next week." That got my attention. "Grace is leaving? Can you blame Grace?" Clara rejected her analysis methodology and implemented some cookie-cutter approach she brought from business school. "The data is garbage now." I frowned. Grace was brilliant, the most talented analyst I had ever had on my team. Losing her would be a major blow. "What exactly do you expect me to do?" I asked quietly. "I don't know, something. Anything. You always had a plan." I looked at him steadily. "Plans take time, Oliver. Sometimes you have to let things develop naturally." He shook his head in frustration. "While you are waiting for things to develop naturally, we are losing everything you built." As Oliver walked away, Clara appeared in the break room doorway. "I need you in my office," she said curtly. I followed her, noting the new tension in her shoulders, the slight dishevelment of her usually perfect appearance. The office, my former office, was strewn with papers and open folders. "The quarterly numbers are due tomorrow," she said without preamble. "I can't make sense of the reporting structure." "The structure you implemented 3 weeks ago?" I asked mildly. Her jaw tightened. "The structure that your team is clearly sabotaging. Nothing adds up. The client satisfaction metrics are plummeting, and the revenue projections are worse." I took the report she thrust at me, scanning it quickly. "These aren't signs of sabotage, Clara. They are accurate reflections of what is happening. 3 clients have already reduced their service packages. Fairmont Hotels has indicated they may not renew, because your team has poisoned them against me." I kept my voice level. "The clients are responding to changes in our approach. The personal touch matters in this industry." The personal touch was holding us back. She slammed her hand on the desk. "We need scalable, repeatable processes that don't depend on individual relationships." "Bruce agrees with me." "Then perhaps you should discuss the reporting structure with Bruce." Her eyes narrowed. You're enjoying this, aren't you? Watching me struggle while you sit in your corner, playing the wise martyr. The division failing proves you right. I set the reports down carefully. I want the division to succeed. These are my people, my clients. But I am not in a position to direct strategy anymore. Then help me fix this, she demanded. Take over the quarterly report, make it make sense. Show me how to present these numbers without Bruce firing me on the spot. And there it was, the exact opportunity I had been waiting to seize. I nodded slowly. I'll need access to all the client files again, and I would like Grace pulled off her current project to assist me. Clara hesitated, then nodded tersely. Fine, whatever it takes. The presentation is at 10 o'clock tomorrow morning. As I left her office, I allowed myself a small smile. The chess pieces were moving exactly as anticipated. What Clara did not realize was that I was not playing to win back my old position. I was playing a much longer game. That night I worked late in the office, long after everyone else had left. With my temporarily restored access, I compiled a comprehensive analysis of division performance before and after Clara's arrival. The numbers told a stark story that no amount of creative presentation could disguise. Grace joined me around midnight, coffee in hand. So, we are saving her career? We are doing our jobs, I replied, not looking up from my screen. You know what I don't understand, Richard, Grace said, settling into a chair beside me. Why aren't you angry? They took everything from you and handed it to someone who is destroying it. How can you just sit there so calmly? I finally looked up. Who says I am not angry? Grace studied my face. You're plotting something. I am responding strategically to changing circumstances. A slow smile spread across his graces. The quarterly numbers are really bad, aren't they? They reflect reality, I said carefully, and no amount of presentation magic can hide that. Grace's eyes widened slightly. You are letting her fail spectacularly in front of Bruce and the executive team. I am helping her present accurate information in a clear format. We worked through the night creating a presentation that was meticulously accurate, beautifully designed, and absolutely devastating in its clarity. There would be no hiding from these numbers. As dawn broke, Grace looked over our finished work and whistled softly. This is either going to get you your job back or get you fired completely. I saved the file and sent it to Clara. Perhaps, but sometimes you have to be willing to risk everything to gain anything worthwhile. What I did not tell Grace was that the presentation was just one small move in a much larger strategy. A strategy that had been set in motion the very day Bruce had first brought Clara to an executive lunch 3 months earlier. The quarterly presentation unfolded exactly as expected. Clara stood before the executive team, clicking through the slides Grace and I had prepared. Each graph told the story of a division in decline. Client satisfaction had fallen by 37%, and new business acquisition showed alarming downward trends. As you can see, Clara said, her voice shaking, we are experiencing some transitional challenges. Bruce's face had transformed into barely contained fury. Transitional challenges? This is a nosedive. What is your plan to reverse it? Clara glanced desperately in my direction, where I sat quietly against the wall, but I offered no rescue. I've developed a new framework by standardizing our approach, she began. Standardizing? Margaret Fletcher from the board interrupted. Our advantage is customization. Yes, but customization is not scalable, Clara argued. Growth is irrelevant if we are losing accounts, Bruce cut in. Fairmont Hotels is worth $3 million. I heard they are reviewing options. Clara trembled. Perhaps Richard has some insights, Margaret suggested, turning to me. I stood up. Our key clients value consistency and personal connection. Rapid changes can be unsettling. Bruce nodded. This is a disaster. Richard, can the Fairmont account be saved? Possibly. Daniel Fairmont and I have a strong working relationship. I can reach out. Bruce agreed immediately. Do it today. We will discuss Clara's role later. In the hallway, Clara hissed, You set me up. I replied calmly. The presentation showed accurate data, nothing more. I walked away to call Daniel Fairmont. Richard. About time, Daniel said. Your replacement wanted to eliminate the sustainability reporting central to our identity. It completely ignores our position. A misunderstanding. Let's discuss it over lunch tomorrow. Daniel grunted. Fine. The usual place. Noon. I'm glad you're still there. I hung up and found Bruce hovering. He agreed to meet. I will handle it, I said. Bruce sighed in relief. Good. Once this stabilizes, we must discuss restoring your position. I nodded. Of course. For the next week, I met with clients, soothing concerns and rebuilding confidence. Accounts stabilized. Clara was relegated to minor tasks while I handled relations. When I spoke, people listened. 17 days after the presentation, Bruce called me into his office. Clara sat stiffly, and Margaret Fletcher was present. Richard, we made an error, Margaret said. Your leadership is essential. We want to reinstate you as division director, and Clara will report to you. I let the silence stretch before responding. That is generous, but I must decline. My trust in this leadership has been irreparably damaged. This is about recognizing my value. If that value is only acknowledged during a crisis, then my talents are better appreciated elsewhere. Bruce's expression darkened. You are leaving? Yes, I said, sliding my resignation across the desk. As of yesterday, I have established my own consulting firm. Margaret has already seen my proposal. Bruce stared in shock. Actually, she approached me, Margaret admitted, with a compelling proposition. I recognized the potential immediately. Bruce's face grew red. This is a conflict. Your contract has non-compete clauses, which are completely void and unenforceable under California Business and Professions Code Section 16,600, I replied. California voids all employment non-compete agreements, so my advisory firm is fully compliant with state regulations. My lawyer confirmed it, Clara whispered. You planned this all along. I nodded. Only clients who value relationship continuity will join me. And Grace Miller and Oliver Foster have also accepted positions. They are resigning this afternoon. The silence was deafening. You can fight this, Bruce, I said, but you will lose. Relationships matter more than resources. 3 months later, my firm occupied the top floor of a riverside building. 12 former teammates had joined us, bringing their expertise. 7 major clients followed us from Bruce's company, and we had 11 new ones. Clara was let go within weeks. Bruce was forced to manage the division himself, which he hated. On a crisp morning, I sat across from Julian Sinclair at breakfast. He raised his espresso. To brilliant strategy. When did you start planning your exit? The moment I noticed Bruce bringing Clara to executive lunches 3 months before my demotion. A wise business person always recognizes the signs, and you let the situation deteriorate. I simply stepped back and allowed natural consequences to unfold, I corrected. The best revenge is not orchestrating failure. It is creating success from their mistakes. Julian laughed. Bruce called me, offering a discount. I told him relationships are built on trust and consistency, not discounts. Like this breakfast we've shared for 7 years. My phone buzzed with a message from Sarah. Daniel Fairmont signed the contract. Celebration tonight? I smiled, typing my confirmation. The most powerful plan B is about building something better from what others failed to value. A lesson Bruce learned too late, Julian observed. Outside, I watched my offices reflecting the morning sun. Inside, my team was building something remarkable together, valuing experience, trust, and loyalty. The view was far better from this side of the river. If you stayed to the end, thank you. Sometimes the best revenge is creating success on your own terms. If this resonated, please like and subscribe for more stories about resilience. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had to activate a plan B when life took an unexpected turn? I would love to hear from you.